Welcome back. And I'd like to talk about some more anatomical relationships between the body, the brain, and how this impacts the craniosacral system. Today, I'd like to talk about the brain and the gut and give you a little introduction to how also this impacts the immune system as well. Now, in anatomy, advances in anatomy don't come at a very fast rate typically. But in the last few years, there's been some exciting developments in research. Researchers at the University of Virginia actually found that there's evidence of a nerve tract which extends from this meningeal system in the brain that we've spoken about to some degree, that lines the inside of the bone, kind of like a shower cap. And quite by accident, researchers found that there was a nerve tract that extends from this meningeal system they could trace all the way down to the gut. And a lot of people had intuited over time that, they thought there was some intuition and some correlation between the information and communication between the brain and the gut. But no one had actually traced that out and actually seen a hardwire connection between the two. So this is very exciting in the last few years that this has been found. And one of the reasons why this is important is this meningeal system, of course, relates to the craniosacral system. So there might be some way that the craniosacral system can influence that information and relationship between the brain and the gut. And when we think about it, just to set the stage, there's really some protective barriers that exist inside the body to protect the food that we intake deep within our body and keep it isolated, of course, to the digestive system so it doesn't overflow inappropriately into other parts of the body. But to give you an example of what can happen if something goes wrong, some of you may have heard about the leaky gut syndrome, which is more and more prevalent these days. So what does that mean? It means that there's pores in our plumbing inside our body, and something happens which isn't supposed to. Now, why does leaky gut syndrome occur? Well, some people speculate that it's because of the type of food we eat, especially over time. And I talk in the Body, Energy, and Longevity Prescription about the consequences of food over time, whether there's more toxins or sugars, or whether there's something that occurs or occasions more inflammation. So what can occur is that, say there's more acid in the lining, the mucosal lining of the gut. This creates little micro tears or holes in the gut. And in addition to that, my friend Jeffrey Smith, who talks about quite a bit about GMOs, genetically engineered mechanisms, speaks about how when there's treatment of genetically engineered mechanisms in the body, maybe from the cows or maybe from the plants or maybe the other things that creep into the flora and fauna of our gut, that they actually also begin to create micro tears in the gut. And in fact, he points out that the way that this is engineered to disrupt insect life is that it actually is engineered, bioengineered to actually create rips or holes in the gut of these insects to destroy them. And what a lot of people say that make these fertilizers and pesticides say is that, well, there's no real influence of that when it gets to that part of the human food chain where the humans consume them. However, research seems to indicate that that's not entirely the case. And people that imbibe pesticide-related structures begin to develop more and more leaky gut with a whole symptom of problems, including memory problems, decreased immune system functions, and so on and so forth. So one can see that that is a problem that we might want to be a little bit more aware of. So what can happen is that when there's leaky gut, it's just one example, is that these food particles start to enter into the body cavity. Well, then we have the immune system patrolling the body, always looking for invaders. And that's what the immune system does. It's doing its job. However, when these food particles penetrate into the body cavity, into the abdominal cavity, and the pelvic cavity, so on and so forth, what happens is the immune system comes along and reads these food particles as invaders. And then they start to come along and start to gobble up that food. And basically, as one can see, that can take resources away from the immune system that its job, ideally, is just to protect us from real foreign invaders, and the food is misread as a problem. So that takes resources away from the immune system and inadvertently can basically lower our resilience and immune system function as well. So in this blog, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a setting for how the GI tract and the immune system are related. And in the next vlog, I'll talk a little bit more about how this impacts memory and how craniosacral therapy can assist that. So thanks for watching, and we will see you again soon.